So let's see. It says we're live. We would love to see some sign of life, just so we see that all the cables have connected and all the technology is working. Monique, it happened once that something didn't connect.
Oh, no.
Oh my God, that was scary. We pivoted and we found a solution. But since then, I always ask from the audience, please comment, please let us know that you see us, you hear us, that it works.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you and I can have a chat any day.
And we'll keep talking forever. This is a topic that we both love. So
exactly. So call out to our audience. Please give us a sign of life. Let us know who's here, where are you dialing in from. And then we'll kick it off. Let's see, still no comments. Hello. Let us know if you see us, if you hear us. How did you manage find time on a busy Wednesday to tune in, to listen to two ladies talk about networking, which is a very interesting and somewhat complex concept, Monique, would you say?
100%. The word makes people cringe. So we'll get into that.
Excellent. Joanna Agar here. Love it. So that means it works. That means anyone who is registered and wants to be with us has the chance to do so, which means that, Monique, we can kick it off. And big hello to all of you, Claire. And for some of you, I don't see the names. I see Basil is here, Serge is here, Brandy, Karishma, Barbara, Renee. Oh my God, you're all here. Amazing. So let me introduce you. My very dear and colleague, Monique Kelley. I am so happy, Monique, that you could find time to be with us here today. This is a topic that has been on top of my mind for as long as I can remember, because everybody says you need to network. So, when I had to find an expert to really talk this through, what does it truly mean and how can we do it best? I thought of you, and I thought, there is no one better that can explain it in a human language and give us tips and tricks. And so this is our goal. We want to keep it practical. We want to keep it real. We want to give you examples and tips and tricks and stories. I have plenty of stories on networking, Monique. I'm sure so you, and actually probably all of us. Monique is a book author. She's a speaker. She's a communications leader. She's also a professor at Boston University. So Monique, over to you.
Thank you, Dana. I am super excited to be here. And when I saw you launch the Rail Bridge, I was excited because you've made your, I think, value. We're going to talk a lot about making value clear in networking, and the valuable content that you continue to put out, not only around being a connector, but also kindness is something that I point to with my students and other professionals in terms of someone who's doing it right and is going beyond just the function of their job and really looking at what they can contribute to others. So excited to be here.
Lovely. Good. So let me kick this off with a bang. So we're here to really, and the title of your book is Redefining Networking. So we're here to really, let's reframe. Like you said it already, a lot of people cringe when they hear networking. They think, networking is something you do when you need from the other person. So basically, you approach someone and you say, Monique, I know we haven't spoken in 100 years, but, I really need you to come on my live session and teach my community about networking. Is this still true? Are we reframing the mindset? Where are we taking it now?
Yeah, unfortunately, the research shows things have gotten worse, especially after the COVID pandemic, where a lot of us became more remote or hybrid in our jobs. I was on a working group with a company where we were looking at ways of working, and many companies and organizations started to say, don't even have a meeting unless you really need it. And by the way, if you really need it, you have to be prescriptive with an agenda, make it a half an hour. And we were really starting to, I think, miss what we used to call the water cooler conversation, and just having a chit chat with a colleague or someone that has no agenda or no real ask other than just catching up with each other. That started to be frowned upon. And there's many research. One of the research that I really like to point to is a LinkedIn global study that found 80% of people in general do recognize that networking is important. But when you look at who's actually doing it, less than half. And the main reason is because, you guessed it, people don't really have a lot of time to do anything that's not specific to a transaction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So after all the research you've done, the experience you've built, what is today the biggest myth? Like you said some of it, but I'm sure, and I hear it in my bubble around. What is it that people still believe about networking, and maybe also, how they go about it when, you said half of them actually do networking.
Right.
What is the misconception?
The misconception is really that networking is about me and what I can get, versus networking, what it really should be about is we. And how do you make sure that both parties are really providing that value over time? It might not happen overnight. And more in this urgent world, we have become so transactional that we reach out when we need something and then we disappear when we don't. And we turn networking on and off like a faucet, versus looking at it as an investment of our time, talents, and energy, frankly.
And so if we could redefine it and call it something else, because I think networking has this negative somewhat connotation. Back to what you were saying, asking for favors, transactions. The first word for me that comes to mind is building relationships, right? Because if we are having these meetings at the water cooler and chats with people that we potentially like or would like to spend more time with, for me it's about relationships, because then I don't need anything back, but I would love to have a learn from you or whatever else it may mean at a particular point in time. What would you say, Monique?
Yeah, it's about contributing value. And so I believe, especially people who are seeking a job or a new opportunity, if you're clear on the unique skills that you can provide to the right audiences and organizations, that organization benefits and you benefit as well. We all want to be in places where our value can be really, maximized. The Gallup poll right now is saying 80%, it's always 80% these polls, but 80% of people globally are not engaged at work. That's a high number. And so for those 20% that are engaged, we're finding that it's really because they feel they're in a purposeful career where their values could really be applied to what they are doing. And so that's where I think for most of us who don't like networking, I hear it all the time. Oh, I'm an introvert, it's not for me. Or I don't really have time. Or how are you running around and you meet a lot of people? And it's just, I don't like doing that. Well, here's the thing. Relationships are for everyone. And just like going to the gym or our fitness doesn't mean you have to go every day or be a bodybuilder like my father in order for the benefits of exercise, right? So it's the same as networking. If we invest in relationships, looking at our own circles, not always, that's another myth. You have to go to a conference, wear a name tag that my name is always spelled wrong, go around, work a room, and then at the end of the day, you're exhausted and recognizing who did I actually meet and want to follow up with. That's not it. So really, the more that we can look at our own circles first, especially for those who aren't comfortable, and recognize that there are many ways to network. I probably like to do it over a meal because I love food. But for some who don't really have the time to get out and talk with people directly, it's okay to do it, like you said, in the conversations that you're already having at work.
I love that example because I absolutely don't like networking over food. Even at events, when there is like finger food or something, I come home starving because I haven't had a bite. Because when
Yeah.
I talk to people, I don't want to have my mouth full. And when I eat food, I want to look at food and I want to enjoy food instead of that being kind of a side. Because obviously, the person in front of you will always be the most important person versus your
Right.
food, right? So it's funny. For me, it's the coffee. I mean,
Mm.
I am a coffee addict, so I will always prefer if it's a face to face. I have nothing against a virtual meeting, but if it's face to face, which obviously is great because you get to sense the person in front of you a lot better. For me, it's the coffee. Then there's always
And
the
it's
opportunity, white coffee, black coffee, do you like coffee? No, I don't like coffee.
I was just
You
gonna
get to,
say, yeah. Well, being Persian, I'm all about the tea. So that's the
there
first
you
thing I
go.
notice. If I'm with someone who I maybe don't know or haven't caught up in a while and they tell me, oh my God, I love tea, then that's a whole conversation right there that we can spend a half an hour on.
I met recently someone who showed up to the coffee meeting with their own tea bag, and they said, "I don't drink coffee, but I'm very particular about the tea that I drink, so this is what I'm having." And
What a
we had a
conversation
whole,
starter.
yeah, exactly, we had a really good start on that. And they were a little bit embarrassed about it because they said, "Oh, but it was fun and it was great." So this is exactly what I did. And this is interesting. So let me pull it up. So Kelly
Oh,
says,
Kelly.
Kelly says, she's like, be strategic. What is your intention? What do you have to offer? And this is exactly what you mentioned earlier, because you said, oh, there's so much advice right now. We don't have these simple exchanges without an agenda. There's a lot of advice. We don't have a lot of time, so we need to be really purposeful. And this is exactly what Kelly says. She's like, be strategic, have an intention.
Yes.
What do you offer? I like the last bit. What do you offer?
What
I
do
like
you
the,
offer?
we'll touch on that
Yes.
a little later. But so let's talk about this. Do you go into um, lunch or coffee meetings when you want to build that relationship? When you see someone that you feel that this person belongs in your network, how do you go? Do you have clear ideas on strategy? Back to Kelly's question, or rather not?
So I am one of these people who love relationships. That's the Gemini, ambivert in me. I love to just get to learn about people. And I would say if nothing else you take away from this conversation to the audience, it's about alignment and curiosity. When we're curious about another person, and I do this all the time, I'm consulting with different companies and I recognize I don't know this person. I see their name pop up on emails or different things. But hey, what maybe 30 minutes on a Friday or any day that's slow, I'd love to just get to know more about what you do. And sometimes when we ground it in our common interest, and in this case, we both work at the same company. And if I'm starting to hear what a person does, I'll ask, what's coming up that's exciting for you? What's, something in your world that's a priority? And 9 times out of 10, if I can't contribute value to that specific goal that they have, I'm already in my head thinking about who do I know, who I need to connect that person to, who might help them in their goals. It's a very different approach. So I don't go in with an agenda of I need to have this ask at the end of this call, but rather it's fun for me to say, let me just hear somebody and what they have going on and what do I have in my world or resources that could actually contribute to them in some way.
Hmm. So if I read you correctly, your strategy and intention going into these coffee chats is have an open mind, be curious, and see how you can help or connect this person.
Absolutely. We all have value to give, just not to everyone at all times. And so when we are clear on the skills that we have, sometimes we're not always before we get into an organization or have a conversation, but hopefully we know our strengths enough to know that if someone needs help in a particular area, or if there's something in their world that we can contribute to directly or through our network and relationships, that's what this is all about. And that's what I mean by this redefining networking. I define it as earning your keep. In other words, showing up in order to invest the time and talent needed to really have that mutually supportive relationship where you benefit too.
There's a really interesting conversation going in parallel in the chat section. And so Bea saying networking should be intentional. And I love the last bit. She goes like, if you don't know what your intention is, just go and be with your family. I love that. I really love that. And I am not 100% sure, because sometimes the most interesting outcomes come when you're not really expecting them. So
Yes.
this is a little bit contradicting to this concept of exchange of favors,
Yes.
because, if you have an intention going into this conversation, then that kind of, it could be, especially after you already know someone. But I think we're more
Right.
focused here now on building new relationships, new connections, new networks. So
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I am 100% on the point on being with the family, which is oftentimes my excuse when I decline networking events in the after hours. I'm very direct, and I'm like, my
Right.
choices are with either I go drink cheap wine with people I don't know, or I go home, have dinner with my children and husband,
Right.
tuck them into bed. They're still luckily in the age when they want my kisses and cuddles, and sometimes, trying to negotiate one more bedtime story. So the choice oftentimes is very easy.
Right.
But having said this, I absolutely love meeting new people. For me, for my life, those that know me and those that have been following, for me, my bubble in my life revolves around people. I am
Right.
fascinated by understanding the motives and how people tick and what's important to them, and how they build their careers, and why do they go into particular areas of science or commercial, or and so I just really enjoy that part. However, back to your point, the networking events, do you do those? Do you like them?
Well, let me give you a couple stories and illustration. And B, I agree, being intentional. Sometimes that intention could just be, I want to get to know someone. That's enough of a goal. And so getting back to the conferences, I recently attended one where with my students. So I was having them, register. We all know you get the bags, the swag, everything. So my hands
Mhm.
were full. I was going up an escalator, and this gentleman comes up behind me and just starts going into his elevator pitch. And I turned around in the elevator to see him, and the button of the back of my pants attached to the escalator, and it flew off, violently flew off. So I actually thought to myself, and I am somebody who wears my emotions on my face, I was in horror thinking my pants were going to fall off, and I can't reach them because my hands. So I'm thinking, do I throw everything up in the air and get my pants? What do I do? The whole time he just keeps talking. He was not fazed by what was happening in front of him. And at the top of the escalator, he then gives me his card, which I think I was like this to try to get into my pile. And he said, if you ever need anything, let me know. Never asked for my name. I don't remember his name, his business, or what I did with his card. So obviously that's a very, exaggerated example, but that is a true story that happened to me on an escalator. And to the point around intention, I'm a big fan of playing the long game. When I was on the agency side in communications, I worked with an awesome woman. She was in HR communications. And when I went to in-house to another company, she decided to go into consulting. So one of the clients that I had on the agency side asked, do you know anybody who handles EECM or internal comms? You're in-house now, but we need a consultant. I recommended her. She ended up consulting with this company for 4 years and just went in-house. So she's now a director there. And when I just started to become a consultant, one of the first clients that I had was this very same company, and she was someone who helped onboard me and train me in. And so that's what I mean by not always having a transaction or an agenda, because the people you meet in your life 5, 10, 15 years ago, one, they're the ones that can hire you now, but also they're the ones you can contribute to as well. So play the long game in your relationships. And when we look at people as opportunities for us to connect and add value to versus always take from short term, that's really where we can see the benefit over time.
Aga says, intention of helping others comes from the position of power. Okay. So if I want to help someone, that means that I have the power and you don't. But she's aligned that curiosity is absolutely the best strategy to go about.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have power because we all have value. We're not always clear on what that is for every organization, and it changes. My value on the agency side was different from corporate, certainly different in academia. They could care less that I was good at new business. And it's different now as in terms of consulting and speaking. So it is a position of power, but we're not always going to be in the same position over time. And I think as long as we're always trying to look out for ways to contribute, it might not be exactly at the time when we need something from someone, but similarly to Carolyn, my friend who I recommended, she always kept me in mind and also recommended me as a consultant when I became one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when I saw this, I'm sure there's a part of truth, Aga, in this. At the same time, I recently had a lunch walk. Actually, this is what we did. We walked over the lunchtime with someone, and at the end of this conversation, it was really like we were saying, no agenda, just two people that had some common grounds and were interested in each other, and we had a nice chat and some exchanges and discussions on what was going on in our lives, and at the very end of this conversation, this person turns to me and says, "But Dana, how can I help you? What can I do for you?" And I know I've heard of this before, but I was really taken aback a little bit at that moment. I was like, I don't need any help right now, and I'm okay, because I'm so used to people asking help from me that
Right.
when someone offers help, I was like, oh, but I really appreciated it. I really appreciated it, because I thought, if I need some sort of help at some point, I will be a lot more encouraged to reach out to this person and
Yes.
say, hey, remember you offered help. Actually, now there is something that I could really use your network or your eyes or, whatever it may be. So I had a mental note back then that actually this is something that I will do on the way forward. Whenever there is an exchange and there is someone, what I typically would do is I would say, let's stay in touch. And if there's anything that you feel that I could, support you in, don't hesitate to reach out. But somehow it doesn't come across that strong as that particular, what can I do for you? How can I help you? And so I was like, that's just a much better phrasing of the same intent, actually.
Right. And Dana, that's a really good point. We don't always know how to help. So sometimes just asking will help us to recognize something that maybe we didn't see before, that how we can contribute our value and help someone. And sometimes it's just listening or just, stay tuned. I might need help at some point, but thank you for offering. It's also part courtesy. I was talking with an etiquette expert and she said, God, your networking, approach really fits within this. And I said, you're right. I never thought of it that way. It's, etiquette as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of really interesting questions, and I wish I could pull up all of them. We'll go through maybe at the end of the session to have some more question and answer. But I'm sure that everyone on this session right now is sitting there and thinking, okay, but what I really want to know is, we're all professionals, right? We're all under pressure. We're juggling, demanding careers, busy lives, kids, relationships, family stuff, health stuff, you name it. Nobody has free time, regardless of their employment status. What are the few tips, Monique, from your research, from your experience, how can we build some habits that created the return, that help us to build these relationships and networks in a practical way?
Yes, similarly to our fitness, start where we are. It's okay if we haven't necessarily taken the time to invest in our relationships in a while because life happens. But I do believe that even if it's a little, and I ask people all the time, how much are you spending on networking? I have friends that say one Friday a month, I'll do a couple calls. And I have other friends like me who are foodies and we love just to get out of the house and dress up and have a drink or something like that. And so whatever it is, there is no one way to do this, but I do think keeping my 3-step approach in mind of what is your unique value, at least having a sense of what lights you up and what are you passionate about and what drives your energy. The second being, who is that audience or the organizations who can benefit. So start where you are. If you're already working somewhere that you really like and you'd love to explore and get to know people, have your curiosity drive you into those one-on-ones or lunch meetings or other ways to really get to know someone. And the third step is about communication. We didn't really talk about LinkedIn, and that's really, Dana, how you and I originally got to know each other, is through that platform. 1.3 billion users, but only 1% are on posting. And so this isn't about let's hurry up and post a whole bunch. That's not it. But we can leverage LinkedIn to find people with like-minded people, people who are in our careers and in our industries whom we might not have known directly and have worked with in the past.
Yeah. And since you mentioned LinkedIn, Karishma is asking, okay, we're all connecting on LinkedIn. We're all exchanging. How do you turn a LinkedIn connection into an actual conversation rather than directly asking for a job?
That is so great. And it's something that I love doing as well and do all the time, where if I see that someone is working on something or posting something that, again, I think, oh, maybe I can contribute, or, oh, we should thought partner because they're probably tackling the same challenges that I am, especially now. AI is continuing to increase. Every company is hiring AI officers and different people. I'm currently working with a organization in their transformation and change department in AI. So I tend to gravitate towards people who I feel, oh, we might have some kind of common ground to, and I'll just ask them in the connection request. I'll put a little message that explains what I'm doing and why I think, oh, it might be good just to connect. Again, I don't really have an ask other than getting to know them, and I think that's important. Other authors like Dory Clark and others will have a specific, don't ask for a request until a year into a relationship. I am not that prescriptive. I do think, again, if this is about contributing value, if perhaps in that conversation with that new LinkedIn connection, they are mentioning something and you feel, wow, I can really contribute to that in some way, don't wait a year. Don't deprive them of that ability to have you contribute that value to them in some way.
Absolutely. And please don't ask for a job in the connection invite or in the first message saying, I saw there was a job. Can you please refer me? Or I get these every day.
Yeah.
So I can assure you that doesn't lead anywhere, because there's another 500 applications that I know as well as I do you. So the fact that you found me on LinkedIn doesn't really change much. But what I have seen, and exactly to your example, we connected over LinkedIn. We stayed in touch. You regularly supported my content with meaningful additions and comments and questions, and there was once in a while there would be an interesting topic that we both tend to happen to think about or work on, and this is how, over time, it almost feels like we know each other well.
Yeah.
Well, we don't really, right? But it gives you an impression, if at some point you were to reach out to me and say, hey, there is this role, I would absolutely be invested to support you and help you. And this is what I've seen on several instances on LinkedIn with variety of connections. Some of them have turned into friends because we met at different events, and then we went for dinner, and then we really built something very meaningful over a LinkedIn connection. So it sounds strange now that I say it out loud, but actually it doesn't really matter where and how you meet. If you feel that connection with a person, and I really like to add here, you don't have the sense that the other person wants something from you, because unfortunately, in my experience, LinkedIn tends to attract people who find you when they need something of you. which isn't always a bad thing. But if you don't know the other person, Karishma, I don't think LinkedIn is a place to ask for a job. I think it's a great place to reconnect with colleagues that you worked with in your previous workplace, who saw your leadership and your abilities and your smarts, and now they happen to be in another company, and you found a job that is open there. And so, you could reach out to and say, hey, I really enjoyed working with you, and remember that great project we delivered together. Now I happen to see that there's this open role in your team. Would you have any visibility into this process? And possibly could you connect me to these people? That I absolutely see. And that referral is going to be 10 times more impactful than someone who doesn't know the quality of your work or your capabilities or aspirations. So in my view, this is how you turn a LinkedIn connection into a conversation about the job.
Yes, and something else that I think is important too, that you mentioned, is leveraging the existing connection, because that's where you've built trust and credibility already. And so recently, one of my former clients turned friends messaged me on LinkedIn and said, would you mind if I did an intro between you and someone else who was also at that same company? One, because I think you mutually can add, value to each other and you're doing similar work. And also because I know that she's really looking at exploring an opportunity at one of your former companies. So that's coming from a friend of mine, somebody who I've invested so much, and someone who also contributes and shows up for me. So there's already that investment there where it's like there's certain people, if I just see their name, I don't care if they want me to jump through hoops. I am there for them because they have definitely shown me, their investment in me over decades, let alone the, recent conversations.
Absolutely. And even if it has been a long time since the last time you connected, I know for sure that I have people in my professional network, which is why it's critical that you build that network, that you connect with people that you are working today, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So people that you work together, do build this network. Don't wait for once every 6 months to think of everyone that comes to mind to add on LinkedIn. Do it regularly. I sometimes do it already during the video call, or if I'm in a bigger group meeting, I add all the people that are on the call, because I just want to have the professionals that I work together with. And Karen says, I play the role of connector, exactly like you said, right? Introducing two people. If you have tips for the best way to manage that, mutual direct message, separate messages to get permission first, exactly the example that you were saying, Monique, right?
Yeah, this is it. Hi, Karen. It's so great to see familiar faces too. That's the beauty of this. It's we're all connected. I truly believe it. And I personally like, it's a preference, but I personally like when someone does just like my friend Amy did and said, do you mind if I connect you to this person? And I'll let her know, look, I'm about to go on vacation, but yes, great, in a couple weeks, let's, connect us both, and I'll find a time to, meet up with her. So I like that courtesy. I think it gets really uncomfortable if someone who I don't really know is introducing me to another person that I don't really know, didn't really ask me, and it's very clear from this person. I got this recently. It's like, I want this from you. I want that, like literally, I want this. I need this. I need this. Are you free tomorrow? And I was like, I don't even know how to respond to this, So when you don't put people on the spot, just think about it as, what would you want done to you? And really thinking about it in the other person's, from the other person's shoes.
I love that you mentioned it. It happens to me once in a while. Exactly like you say, someone reaches out to me and says, oh, I want you to introduce to this person, they're real talent, and they've applied for this job. And to start with, I need to look up who is the person writing to me.
Right.
But the funny thing is that oftentimes I tend to hear that because of my LinkedIn presence, people say they feel they know me.
Oh, yeah.
So oftentimes they probably don't even think that I don't know them. And so there's this introduction, and I kind of feel awkward because the person being introduced, they don't know. And that's just a really strange concept, but it goes back to asking for favors, because essentially you are asking for a favor for someone else.
Right.
for me to invest time, whether, whatever it may be, but you are asking for my time, first and foremost, to read your message and then act on it.
Right.
So I think we should be a lot more mindful of how we use other people's time. Your time, you're free to do whatever you feel like, but when it comes to other people's time, and I've learned the hard way to draw the boundaries and say, I think it's great that this person has applied for the role. It is a fantastic role. I am not working on it. I really wish best of luck. I am not able to offer my time in this particular instance. I've even stopped explaining why, because it's just good. So many interesting questions in the chat. So Sybil is asking, how would you build the relationship if you connected with someone on LinkedIn? Happens to us all the time. Someone you don't know. All you have is what is on their LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, if you've connected with someone that you don't know, but you'd like to get to know them better, just reaching out as we would offline. We connected recently. I'd love to get to know a little bit more about you, and vice versa. If I see someone wants me to connect with them and I don't really see a direct reason why, I might ask, oh, thank you for, reaching out and adding me. I'm just curious, is there anything in my, profile or content that could be helpful? You never know. And for me, sometimes it's early stage professionals and students from different colleges, or it could be executives in healthcare. So I always try to find, what is the common area that we have? Is it our industry? Is it the work that we do? Is it maybe you're on the customer or the student side? What is it? But yeah, just asking someone, if you're curious, again, this is about alignment and curiosity. And I truly believe when those two elements work together, that's where win-win opportunities and partnerships really come to play.
Yeah. And also, once you connect, I think it's great to say, hey, I noticed that you're working on this, or I saw your post on XYZ. This really spoke to me because, try to build that ground from there already. Sybil, maybe, I saw that we're alumni from the same school, I would be curious to learn more. And in all honesty, not everyone is going to pick it up and say, oh, yeah, of course, I'm also interested to get to know you. So, sometimes with the time, like I mentioned, comment on their posts or engage with the work that they do, build that trust and relationship. And it takes time. It really takes time. And this is where the image that I selected for promoting our session is a garden. Because if I decide today that I want to garden, but all I have is a paved square behind my house, it's not going to happen tomorrow. Even if I hire the best gardeners in the world, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It takes time. So you need to come up with an idea. What do you want there? What kind of plants? What's the weather like? What do you want to do there? Make a plan, go buy the supplies, hire people, so it's a project, and it takes time. Also, even if you've put all the seeds in, you will need to wait until it's the time for them to bloom. And if you don't care for them, if you don't water them, if you don't fertilize them, well, the chances are it's not going to be a beautiful garden.
Yeah, Dana, that's a really good point. It's, sometimes we think we're doing everything right, but we have to remember in a relationship, there's another party. And sometimes, don't take it personal. Maybe you reach out and they don't, get back to you because they're dealing with something personal, or they're dealing with a loss of some sort. And so I've come to believe that people really do have good intentions. They mean well, but not everyone has the chance to be able to follow up and to, give time to networking the way that they should, just like any other investment. I always say the gym because I'm, part coaching myself. I probably need to go a little bit more than I've been because I'm enjoying myself too much on the food, but we all can start from where we are. That's the beauty about networking. There's no one way to do this. Follow your energy and make sure that you feel you're contributing, not just getting.
Yeah. And Antra says, well, is there any shortcuts? Can I build a relationship and connection overnight? Is there a magic pill?
I mean, look, if you want to hand me $1,000 or what people have done, I started talking about my love of a company called Insomnia Cookies that makes the best cookies. So now what people do is they'll reach out and they'll say, can you help me with this? And by the way, there's an Insomnia Cookie gift card in your name. And I will admit, sometimes I say, what the hell? And I take it. So I can be bribed for, cookies and ice cream as well.
I can see now why you need to really work hard in the gym. I would totally do that for some quality coffee beans. That would be my currency. Good. So right now, and I love all the questions and all the interest, and what we see right now on the job market is that network and connections and referrals, unfortunately, or fortunately for some of us, are increasingly critical. They've always been part of of the job search process, but these days they're even more because of the volumes, because of the technology that we have at the fingertips. Now everyone can, create the best in class resume, no matter what, and everyone sounds the same. Everyone is, really impressive. So how do you distinguish? Referrals and personal experiences is really what helps candidates stand out. Now, we also see a rise, I don't know, Monique, if you've noticed, of networking events. So paid events where people purposely go to network, to meet people from their industry, or, whatever it may be. Do you think they work?
Yeah, it depends. It depends again on what your goal is. For me, if my goal is to align value where I think it could be a win-win, I like going to networking events that are curated. So these are events where I can meet with cross-functional executives in business. These are, women's events, leadership events, mentorship events. So they're always with a purpose in mind. Usually not just the general, what I call cattle call event. And I'm immediately turned off if I go and my name is already printed and it's spelled wrong. And then, you feel like people are staring at your chest and being fresh all night because they just want to see what your name is. And, you got to move your hair. It just becomes awkward. So I really do think if you are clear on, and I think, B mentioned it again, the intentions, if you're clear on what's your intention of being here, even if it is just to build relationships with people in your industry, then I think the 40, 50 person events feel good for me. For some, they love the huge events, the big annual conferences. That's great, but my energy is better spent in the smaller ones.
I'm with you. So this goes also a little bit together with the visibility, right? So we want to be visible. We want to be seen by people in the industry, by colleagues, by people in our network or outside of it. A lot of people stay out of opportunities to be more visible because they fear, I'm going to come across self-promotional. This is the number one reason why I delayed my presence on LinkedIn for a very long time, because I felt like, what are they going to think? Am I going to come across, too much? And the moment I stopped caring about it, I actually got a lot of value from being more visible. So in your experience, how can someone build a strong reputation without all the time being, me, look at me, I did this, I'm honored to announce?
Oh God, us comms people, we hate the proud to announce today by our executives, right? Oh, we like to stay clear of that. I would say, think about it as with them. What's in it for me? But in terms of that audience. So always think about, before I hit click, I always think, can my audience learn something from this, benefit from it somehow? Is this just about, look at me to stroke my ego? Or is this really helping somebody else out there? So again, when we're aligning our skills to someone else in a way, talking about the work that we do, that could be in service of another organization or audiences that really need to hear it. And I'm surprised, Dana, by what you said, because like I said, I really always appreciated your content. A lot of it had to do with kindness, and it really had nothing to do with, being a recruiter and this is what I need from you, or these are the jobs that we have, or in HR we do this. It was just more, a lot of it was your personal storytelling and things that I think are universal themes that a lot of us can relate to. So that's also another approach you can take. And I've heard people say the best people on LinkedIn, they're sprinkling in their personality, they're being vulnerable, they're being open. So it's not just about business only, because we are humans at the end of the day and are more dynamic than our jobs.
I agree. And yet I've heard interesting various kinds of comments and perceptions. So, but look, you're never going to be able to please everyone. And this is something that I learned as I matured, as I grew, into the person that I'm now. I learned that I can only be myself. I can't be everyone else.
Right.
And I can't please everyone. And I don't want to.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, Birkin bags. You know that bag, the Birkin bag, that like very high design. Yeah. So I will never be their customer. Mark my words. It looks like a diaper bag to me. So I always say luxury brands do this very well. That bag is ugly as sin. But for celebrities and others, they would pay the amount of a house to have that bag. So it's all about, not like you said, it's not for everyone, but for those people, the find your tribe phrase, if you will. They will find you, they will see you, and really appreciate the content that you're putting out.
Thank you. You mentioned introverts earlier in our conversation. So I want to backtrack a little bit, because in my experience, actually, I see introverts building a lot more meaningful relationships than extroverts, who oftentimes are social butterflies, and they look like they know everyone, but in the end, so what is it that they get right about this relationship building? What is it that the extroverts overlook, or that they could work more on? What's your take here?
Yeah, we did a lot of research in this area and found that, again, if this is all about relationship, mutually supportive networking, that relationships, our introverts have a leg up of listening, being curious, being thoughtful in what they say. So maybe you're not going to be the one to work a room and feel energized afterwards as much as the extroverts, but you might just have great, maybe 2 quality conversations. And those quality conversations could lead to business or connections to other opportunities. I have a lot of conversations with people that have led to speaking gigs. I mean, even this professor opportunity. Who am I to be a professor at the school that I failed pre-med bio in, and even go into pharma after failing, But for me, it's always about contributing. And when people see you and they know you, they will be able to look out for opportunities that they think will be beneficial for you and that other party. So that's where our introverts do really well. Extroverts, great for you too. All it is just where you get your energy from. But you might have to resist, and I was there, resist the urge to work a room just like the man up the escalator and sending his card to everyone. I'm sorry, gentlemen, if you're listening to this, I don't remember who you are and would love the opportunity to have a conversation to get to know you. But the escalator 2-second, fly by night wasn't an approach that really worked for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said before, Monique, that helping others creates opportunities. So you're connecting people. You said, if you don't let others get to know you, they won't know which opportunities to connect you. Why is it that generosity is, powerful strategy for me overall? You know my take on kindness and generosity, but even in career strategy, I find it works. In my experience, it truly works. Even though there is no immediate return, and it may involve some time and work from you to support someone. Why do you think? Is there research behind it? Is there more that we could understand?
Yeah, so Adam Grant, there's so many people who look into this and really found that it's the win-win, that's our sweet spot. But yes, I believe if we're doing this right, meaning if we are leading with the value that we can contribute, it will never feel even. And that's okay. It will always feel that you're probably giving more than you're getting, at least in the short term. But I do believe that longer term, when people see you, even people who have perhaps not benefited directly from you, they recognize that kindness, your heart, and your intent. And opportunities will come up for you too. And also, we feel good. We're humans. We're creatures that feel good when we help. So whether that's playing connector or whether that's working directly with someone or coaching them on something, when that person comes back and says, wow, thank you. You were the reason why I was able to get this job or this consulting opportunity, or you listened to me. I didn't really know who to turn to, but you took the 30 minutes and you listened, even if you don't have time. That stays with me, right? We just unfortunately lost Dolly Parton, who was somebody who was beyond a country singer. She was all about philanthropy. She came from nothing, but she always had a heart of trying to contribute, be inclusive, and be as supportive as she can through all of the gifts that she received. And so I remember yesterday kind of stopping what I was doing when I heard that news, and I was like, we've got to take a little bit of Dolly with us everywhere we go. It doesn't mean that we're always 24/7 helping other people. And I certainly am not saying do it at the expense of yourself. We need your energy and you to
Mm,
be your best as well. But again, it goes back to that no right or wrong way to do this. It all depends on your energy. If you feel depleted, if, trying to have networking opportunities once a week is too much, take it down. And it's also going to depend on where you are in your life and in your career. You're going to be in seasons where maybe you don't really want to be out there and contributing and talking to folks. That is okay, but you've got to start somewhere, and we can't turn our network on and off like a faucet whenever we need something.
yeah, yeah. Well, you answered my next question, so because
Crystal ball.
my next question, Monique, was the one thing that you want everyone to take with them from the session, and that's right there, right? Keep
That's
it
it. It's
going as
yes.
little as you can, and this very much beautifully ties up with the career strategy, right? You
Mm-hmm.
cannot build a career overnight. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So you need to have a vision. You need to have the understanding of the direction where you're going. What is it that you want to do? How are you going to get there? What is required? And sometimes you don't have a lot of the answers, but this is where networking comes in great, because connect with people who've taken the path. Learn from people. Everybody, sadly or greatly, everybody loves to talk about themselves. Monica, tell me I'm wrong. So if you reach out to someone, and this is something that I see a lot within the companies, reach out to a senior leader and say, hey, I so admired the journey you've had. What can I learn? Can we grab a
Mm-hmm.
coffee? Can I learn from you? And then ask them the questions, because people love to tell, about and rarely you will most of the times learn that the path on LinkedIn looks a lot more straight than the journey that it took them to get there. And so once you understand that even the most successful executive leader didn't have a walk in the park, and still, there were sacrifices, and there were hardships, and there were problems, and there were challenges for all of us. I think this, for me and for many people I know, this changes everything, because then somehow you're like, well, so I'm not the only one who feels stuck or who doesn't know what to do next, or, and the moment you start discussing this, it just feels easier. And
It
then
really
sometimes the
does.
most unexpected solutions and ideas and connections come across. So I can really recommend. And someone in the chat a while back said, "Oh, there's a lot of internal company networking events,
Mm-hmm.
employee resource groups, uh, communities that people can join. Sometimes totally work not related, but I've met."
Right.
I've met people from my industry and function at my kids' school
Mm-hmm.
parents' party, and I think it's very interesting how we're all still connected. It just takes an
Yes.
open mind, and an openness to ask the right questions.
Definitely. You can get great volunteer opportunities through the ERGs as well, and things that are completely, like you said, not really related to what you do, or maybe, the group of people that you always identify with. But that's a good way to diversify your network as well and relationships.
Yeah. So my last question before we pick up a few more questions from the audience would be, Monique, if we look 20 years from now, so we're about the same age, so we should be in 20 years kind of ready to look back on the amazing things we've achieved. What do you hope, or what do you think, or what do you hope people will remember about the relationships you've built? And great that you mentioned Dolly, because absolutely. I mean, even with people who don't listen to country music, people who, I mean, I don't know her art or music at all, but I absolutely know the work that she's done to help communities and those that are less fortunate. So,
Right.
what would be your story?
Yeah, I would hope people see me as someone who, showed up. When people say, oh, you have a lot of connections or you know a lot of people, I actually get insulted. I said, it's not about knowing people. I want to be known as someone who always shows up for their network. And like I said, there are so many people who have showed up for me, who have always paid it forward. I want to be known as that person, not just the person who, reaches out when they need something, but who really does whatever's in their power to help others, because I recognize how important that is, whether it's mentorship, advocacy, playing, all these different roles for other people. And it's not just the next generation, and that's what drove me to become a professor originally, but it's also about our peers and others as well. So whatever that is for you related to relationships, lean into that. We do only have one life on earth, so now is the time to really go after what you're passionate about, and let's not be that 80% statistic that we're not engaged in life or in our careers. Let's use this as a call to action to really start to build those relationships. And guess what? We're going to need them more and more, because in this world that's so focused on AI and technology and speed and doing everything efficiently and effectively, some of that old school, just getting to know someone, is going to be what helps us in keeping our humanity really alive day to day.
Yeah. I can very much relate to that. And I'm looking through the chat. There's a lot of great questions. Rita is asking, how would you approach a hiring manager who doesn't post on LinkedIn, no mutual connections, vacancy has been published without asking for a job, but also without pretending you're reaching out to build a relationship? Well, it's way too late to build a relationship, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was going to say this is definitely your wheelhouse, Dana. But yeah, I would say, is there someone that is a mutual connection that maybe they don't work at the company currently, but they've worked with this person, and again, they've already built trust and credibility with that other mutual connection. So that might be a little bit more effective than starting from scratch and building a relationship with someone completely cold.
Yeah, but also it feels like there is this preconception that the only way to be selected for a job is if you get to talk to the hiring manager before your application gets screened. I really want to assure you that it is not the case. It really isn't. Even in large organizations, recruiters review CVs, and at the end of the day, even if you know the hiring leader well, if you don't meet the qualifications and the requirements for the role, it won't get you the job. So I want to say that of course it's great to have a referral, and of course it's great to have a warm connection, but if you don't, that's okay too.
Right.
I see people getting hired into roles without any referrals, without any connections every day. So I just want to encourage you to, if you feel this role is what you want to do and you meet the requirements and it really matches, just, put a little bit more effort than you normally would in your application. Really ensure that it is very clear just how close of a match you are, and go for it. Mm. What else? Still the same. When should I ask for a referral? First conversation, second conversation, later?
I wish I had a prescription, like a doctor, right?
Right?
I would love that because now I'm going through some of the hormonal changes. I'm like, doctor, get rid of my bloated stomach. Maybe he'll tell me stop eating the insomnia cookies, or she'll tell me that. But I would love to
I'm
have
not a
that.
doctor.
I'm not a doctor. I work with them, but I would say, you'll know by the energy, right? And by the connection. Sometimes when you're having a conversation with someone, they might ask you plain, like, well, what is your priority? Or what are you working on right now? Or what is your passion area? And if you open up and say, well, I'm really passionate about this particular thing, and in fact, I see that there's a job opening, they might even proactively say, oh, well, do you want to send me your resume? And I'm happy to, see if I can submit it through the referral system, because, depending on the job, they might get financially incentivized from referrals as well if that person gets hired and stays within the company. So again, feel the person out. Sometimes they'll proactively ask, and that's great. Other times, if you feel like maybe this just doesn't seem like it would be appropriate, trust your gut.
Yeah. And so Pablo says he's looking for a position abroad, and it feels like he really needs to build that network, even only virtual. My point is getting used to connect mostly for interest and less for curiosity.
This is interesting. Yeah, because I would say, they're not one either or. They could be both, right? Where you're connecting for interest and just being curious as well. If you are going, whether it's abroad or some another demographic, I had this happen to me going from New York to Boston. I don't really know anybody in Boston. I leveraged my New York connections who knew people already in Boston to really help intro me. It was that warm introduction, so I didn't feel like I was asking, hi, how are you? I'd love to, work with this company, but I don't know anybody. That helped a lot because I never had to make an ask. It was always through my network and through the relationships that I had already that these people were really proactive in seeing, oh, okay, if this is your interest or your skill set, I know someone else that you need to talk to. And then that person had somebody else that I talked to. So it was always a chain through relationships. That personally felt more comfortable for me. And the research shows people shy away from time, but also because they don't want to be in a transactional situation with strangers. So that can help combat that challenge.
Yeah. So I'll just summarize everything we just said and everything we discussed for one whole hour. Less transaction, more curiosity, more openness to genuinely get to know the other person, supporting, paying forward, not necessarily expecting anything back. In my experience, it always comes back in one way or form. I think that's it, Monique. Thank you so much. Thank you to the audience. Absolutely loved the questions, the exchanges. Keep it going. You don't need to us here. Keep going the conversation. Build these relationships. Get to know each other, and see where this takes.
Yes, please connect with us, connect with each other. And to Dana's point, let's keep this momentum going. And thank you so much for the questions, Dana. Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Monique, if people want to learn more about the topic, where can we share any resources, anything else that anyone can learn more about the art of networking?
Yes, redefiningnetworkingbook.com has more about my 3-step approach. It also has my LinkedIn button as well as where you can order the book if you're interested in it. So would love to link in with all of you, keep these conversations going. And by all means, if, in the spirit of networking, if I can help contribute value to you, let's have those conversations for sure.
Love it. I'll be the first one to order it.
Woo!
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.